Good morning, Young Kings. Time for your more motivation. I'm on. I was just on a few days ago, but this process, I told you I want to document my journey. So I want to be true to that and get it to you in real time from my perspective of my interpretation of events that's transpiring in my life and certain things that I go through. I want to make sure that I document it as close to the event as possible to maintain its authentic version, so I don't have to go back and depend on memory later and try to understand or interpret what happened. I like that raw thought as it comes to the head. So today I'm coming to you from the Jeep headquarters, just outside of court. Yes, I said court. And this process is teaching me a lot. This system too, there's some flaws in the judicial system that I want you to be aware of. But at the same time, you have to operate within the confines of the system that exists. So avoid it by all means possible, but when it's impossible for you to avoid it, make sure you operate within inside of the established ruling, because they're imperfect people and they're making rulings and decisions that are less than perfect as well. So my loss is a loss. And that's why I wanted to jump on here. This video, it may seem like a rant, but it's really a lesson, and it depends on the listener. If you want to listen to just the content of it, then you may say otherwise. You may say, hey, you shouldn't have put that out there. But if your spirit is awake, you will be able to hear some of the jewels that I'm about to relay to you, Young King. So if you are placed in positions, that you will also be able to navigate through losses successfully. The reason I was in court today, because there was an appeal by the plaintiff, and I won't state the plaintiff. The plaintiff is my ex. There's an appeal by the plaintiff regarding some money that was owed to me. The money that was owed to me, it was overpayment that I've made throughout the tenure of that long divorce process. And in accumulation of those payments of overpayment are extended to the amount of $8,000, roughly 8 months of paying just shy of $1,100 more than the agreed upon $2,100 in the new negotiated $2,300. So instead of her getting that amount, they have been deducting $3,200 from my check, just under $3,300. So she wanted to appeal that and reduce that. Now, this is money extra above what the supporters agreed. So the judge ruled in her favor. It's no longer $8,000; it's down to $6,000. And she put on some theatrics in there in the courtroom. And you have to understand, the court is not for you kings. You're supposed to rule your courtroom, but when you come to the U.S. judicial system, by all means necessary, kings, try to avoid it, or place yourself in positions that even when you lose, you can still walk out with your head high as though you won. There was a lot of misleading stuff on there and false emotions and stuff of that nature communicated, and I'm sure the court has some sympathy for the facial expressions, and they were opposed to some of my objections. Their logic really didn't make sense, but at the same time, when the ruling is final, that is the ruling. So why did I put this on here as a part of trusting the process? Because when you trust this process and you go through this journey, I wanted you to know that I could come on here, and I've been, those who've been following me for a while, I can easily kind of sugarcoat my life and just come on here and share successes with you. There's enough benefits, blessings, and rewards that I've received in life that I could fill up these videos with everything that I've been blessed with. But the misconception behind that, if I only share with you the good, if I give you the social media effect and only portray everything that's good, then when you start going through your process and your journey and you run into these roadblocks where you get a setback because of a loss or because of a disappointment or because of a loss of a job or of a relationship or getting something less than you truly expected, then you would think something wrong with you. He was like, well, I was watching these videos. It told me to trust this process. He was telling me the Most High is looking out for me and this is that. But if you are just listening to your senses and stuff like that, and that's your spirit, you can be discouraged. You can be like, okay, maybe I don't want to try this no more because maybe it wasn't for me. This is a little difficult than I expected to be. I wasn't expected to be taking these losses. Trust the process. The Most High is still the Most High. You won't win all the time. You will lose sometime. And why I put this video, on here, sitting in the courtroom, in the court parking lot. I didn't even want to drive from here yet. I wanted you to get the unadulterated thoughts of my head. And why I put this video on here, because what quickened in my spirit is that make sure your losses bless you. Like, it's one thing to take away the pain. To say you got the pain. There's this saying out there that says chew the meat and spit out the bone. But in this process, I really want you to savor the flavor of the loss and really learn from it. That's how you are able to make your losses bless you. Like, I'm still up $6,000. Yes, I paid $8,000 over and I'm going to get $6,000 back, but my loss still has me in the positive side of things. My peace is priceless. And that's what another message that I wanted to share with you all is that really analyze what you're calling a loss, because sometimes your loss is a gain. In this process, you may lose some friends, but you really didn't lose them. You gain your freedom from people that have restrictions, that were never really supportive of you, that you no longer have to listen to their complaints and stuff. You didn't lose. So if you focus on, oh yes, I used to hang out with this person 5 years, I've known them since elementary school, it was a good friend. Really define what you mean by good friend. Because, there's a lot of red flags that could have been ignored, that really, if another person was to treat you like that, you wouldn't consider it a friend. If you met somebody new and they treated the way you say your good friend treats you, that new person you just met with that graduated understanding of all your life experiences, if you were to meet that person today and that still you wouldn't consider them a good friend, then maybe that's a friend of your past. Maybe it's somebody you should be distant from. So in that instance, your loss is not a loss. You have just gained an understanding of how to respect yourself and hold people accountable. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you, is make sure your losses bless you. And having that understanding. It's not just from the courthouse perspective in that old relationship. I thought we had it settled, and I thought that, hey, it's in writing. It says all. I should get it all back. And then their interpretation of all was different. I've learned in the judicial system that all does not mean all. It means partial. And I was arguing to the judge, when does all become partial? And if it's partial in this implementation of all, then why isn't it partial when it says all over here? And my argument was on deaf ears. Obviously, I'm the minority in the courtroom. I'm the only man in the courtroom. So it was rigged against me. And I'm not sexist. I'm for justice. And I think that was a miscarriage of it. It wasn't an emotional decision, and there's no indictment on the judge. She was restricted to her interpretation of our negotiation. She was motivated and I think manipulated by some of the emotions of the plaintiff and her attorney. They did some theatrics in there, but the reality of it is I'm still up $6,000. pay my money. There's no discounts from this point forward. That was petty. If you would know, I'm a Taurus. I'm probably the wrong sign to be, against, because my pettiness is probably to the 100th power. I'm working on that, but man, that's part of the process too. Until it gets worked out, y'all will have to deal with some pettiness on these videos. But anyways, back to the scheduled program. Like, even this retirement, it's like, I've been in the Army 28 years, and I think I left a lot of things on the table. I think I have the talent, ability, and skill set to be beyond a lieutenant colonel. But my ability to play politics, I didn't surrender to that. So there are some conversations. I had some hard conversations with some senior leaders that are also decision makers. And when you're not a yes person, you realize that sometimes people say no to you. And you have a choice. You can allow people to treat you a certain way, or you can speak up for yourself. And I was always the one, and I don't regret speaking up to any of these senior leaders that I spoke up to. I remember, I told you a few times there was colonels that, tried to talk to me, in a disrespectful way. And I had to tell them, like, hold up, we're men here. I understand I call you sir, but I'm not your servant. This is no master-slave relationship. And sometimes when people get in power, they try to manipulate that. So in their mind, opportunity cost, I could have lost. I'm a lieutenant colonel, and by all means necessary, that is an extreme blessing. And you got to understand, like, I barely graduated high school. I wasn't projected to get to lieutenant colonel. I wasn't projected to graduate college. And here it is, I have a master's degree. So even though I didn't go to full bird colonel or general, and I'm stopping at lieutenant colonel, some would consider that a loss. But for me, I'm going to get a check for the rest of my life. I made it out of a less than desirable environment, and I didn't dribble a ball. I wasn't carrying a ball for football. It wasn't athletically, although I'm very athletic. It wasn't that I was talented. I didn't sing my way out. I didn't rap my way out. I worked my ass off to get to where I'm at right now. So even me getting out, now I got a check coming for the rest of my life. And the reality is, like, I'm guaranteed half my check for the rest of my life. Well, now half, because I got to give her a portion of it. So I got to finance, I'll finance her as well. But there's enough money that will be coming to me that it's going to pay my house note. It's going to pay my car note. And when I go get another job, which I'm still on the hunt for, I still have all the skills. I have a master's degree. I have over 28 years of experience in various different leadership positions that I can go market and get paid. So really, I was working for half my check to begin with, meaning like half of it is guaranteed whether I show up to work or not, because I'm over the 20-year mark and they have to pay me that. So they're paying me half my check to do all my job. So now I can get the half for them, and then I can go get a whole check from someone else. So I'm still up my half check in this. So even though I lost, it's a gain. So get to a position where your losses, they don't sidetrack you, because maybe it's something that God's taken from you so he can give you something. Because sometimes when your hand is full and you're carrying too much, and you're carrying burdens of a past relationship, you're carrying burdens of unfulfilling workplace, you're carrying all this stuff, God wants to give you things, and there's no room. There's no room for you to receive, because you got all the stuff that wasn't meant for you that's being held up. But as soon as you let those things go, you'll realize your life will start opening up. And that's where you can't be afraid to let things go. And for me, for a long period of time, I held on to things longer than I should have, trying to get blessed from the things that I currently had. Like, I wanted to be blessed from everything I've done in my past, and those things from my past, I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to learn from them. But I thought those things were automatically going to be transferred as something that was also supposed to be included in my future. Some things are meant to be learned and then left. I'm going to say that again. Some things are meant to be learned and then left. And if you don't have that understanding, you will hold on to things much longer than they need to be held. And that thing that was supposed to bless you will start preventing your blessing from coming. Like, the same thing that got you to where you are, may not be the same thing that gets you to where you need to be. So you got to have enough maturity enough to say, you know what? It's nothing against you, but there's something against you and me. It's time for us to separate. It's time for me to live up to my true potential. And you'll realize, like, your loss can be some of the biggest blessings. Sometimes God's no is God's way of protecting you from something he knows should not be included in your future. And it's a painful thing to have loss, especially when you invested time, energy, resources, and all those things. Education, you didn't spent nights studying. Your job, you didn't work overtime trying to get ahead. You know they're not respecting you the way you are or who you are and the gifts and talents that you have developed. It can feel painful during the loss process, and you can start to get into this woe is me and not really truly understand the blessings that's coming in your life by product of things leaving your life. So my encouragement to you about trusting this process doesn't mean you win all the time. It doesn't mean that everything goes your way. God is not no spiritual ATM machine that he's going to answer every prayer the way you want it. Because if God does everything the way you want, doesn't that make you God? And God your servant? We have to understand he's still the Most High. He's all-knowing, you know. So God saw fit for me to surrender $2,000 to get through the last of this objection. Then I know that there's more than $2,000 in my future that's going to be made up for. I got to trust the Most High. Okay, Lord, the court didn't ruled. I didn't stood my ground. Now you ruled. I'm trusting the Most High. And how do I get to a point where I can use loss as gain? Because even though I've been garnished over just under $3,300 a month, I had to alter my living to a certain extent. But I'm still going out to eat. I still live in a house off the water. I still have a boat. I'm coming to you live from a 2021 Jeep, custom leather interior. I mean, flat screen, I'm not lost because of the things that were taken from me. The reality of everything, and I keep saying the reality of everything because there's a reality in everything. So take that. I told you, my petty mind, this big head too, you got to realize all these things are stored up in here. But back to the scheduled program. The truth is that with less money, I'm doing more. My money is going further than it did when I had it all. When I had my whole check in a less than fulfilling marriage, yes, maybe shade, but I didn't live on the water. When I had my whole check, I'm driving used cars, 4 and 5, 6, 7 years old. They were nice cars, but they weren't brand new off the lot. Since I lost everything, I went there. I'm the only owner of this vehicle. Drove a brand new Jeep off the lot. The only people that drove this vehicle were the ones that backed it off the truck and maybe took a test drive or two before I got it. 2021. When I had everything, I didn't have this. I had nothing of this. When I was not being garnished and I was in the marriage, my savings was depleted. I've saved more money with less than I did when I had my whole check. So it's not about what you lose. It's about what you do with what you have. The loss is already there. I could sit here and complain, and you might say, well, you did complain about what you lost. No, I stated it because it's still a fact that there was a miscarriage of justice. But even in that miscarriage of justice, the loss I still won. My peace is priceless. I didn't have this much fun enjoying my journey I had my whole check. There was still strife. There was still less than, and to her defense, she probably felt the same way. You know, my peace right now is supreme. And you got to understand this. This is not saying that everything has went right since we haven't been together. And my new position, my new lady, Keisha, she understands we have had challenging conversations. We just had some other ones. It's not perfect there. I'm still who I am. I have a standard on way I want things. So just like we had a discussion about attire the other day, and it's not to vet to you my problem. I'm just saying, your process you going through your process doesn't mean that you don't have any problems. You still are responsible for negotiating through what you want in your life. So we had a conversation, and after this conversation, I'm expecting changed behavior. And it's not a threat. It's like like I told you about the caged bird. I don't want a bird in a cage where you're just doing it because you're doing it for me. It's okay for you not to do it, but it's not okay for you not to do it and still be with me. So it's like, it has to be mutually beneficial for this. And I got to that process in my stage of this relationship by going through the loss of a previous one. Meaning, like, in court, I realized the judge really didn't let me speak. Wasn't interested in my objections. I had to speak to my attorney, and my attorney she was scared of the judge. And I'm at the point like, hold up, you got to say this. And I felt like, I wish I was my own attorney again, because I think, when you got other people representing you, sometimes they don't represent you right. Nobody's going to do you like you do you. Now, I was instructed to go get an attorney, but it restricted me from communicating directly with the authority. So a lot of times, don't surrender your voice. I know when you're in a judicial system, I would advise you go get someone to navigate through the judicial system that knows the laws. But even in that person is working for you. I had to tell her, like, hold up, I'm not in agreement with this. You're not just going to have me go and just do this. Even though she still said no, she had to hear my voice. I said, she may rule the way she ruled, but you're going to say what I just asked you to say to the judge, because she won't let me say it. And reluctantly, she got up and she said what she said, and the judge said, I understand, and she still ruled the same. But now I'm okay. I wouldn't have been okay if I had just left out of there and I didn't at least get the chance to articulate my stance. So whenever possible in life, represent yourself. And I'm talking about outside the judicial system, meaning like things that's connected to you should be a direct reflection of what you believe in, the current status you are in your life. Like the people around you, like I'm telling you about the new lady I'm dating, Keisha, that is a representation of me. Now, if you see something off with that situation, that's a direct reflection of me and what I'm tolerating or accepting. So you will be lower to what your standards are and what you tolerate or what you don't tolerate. Because when people see stuff that's associated with you, they're going to draw back to your name. So protect your name. You represent your name. And in this process, you got to understand that there will be times that you lose, but learn, grow, and become better, because you realize at times loss is gain. And I'll close on this because it's up over 25 minutes. But the Apostle Paul, he was very skilled in all these different attributes of life. He was the Pharisee of Pharisees, the Sadducee of Sadducees. He studied the law. He knew all this stuff. But he says, I consider it all dung, garbage, crap. He considered it all done when he compares to the knowledge of the Most High. If you don't lose the Most High, lose sight of him, then you haven't lost anything. Like, as long as the Most High is still the Most High, as long as you're the servant of the Most High, anything lower than that you can afford to lose. Be well, Young Kings.